The New York Metros. Yuck. What a horrific end to the season for the Metropolitans. The Amazins weren't so amazing down the stretch. So I guess we'll talk a little bit about, what we saw, how to fix it. I don't know. Well, maybe a mini early knee-jerk reaction premature prediction for 2023. I don't know. But I will say it is going to be a downer. There's one upside. I'm going to tease that. You like that. Let's talk Mets. I really don't want to. I basically wanted to pull a Bin Laden. Not all the other terrorist type stuff, but just like hole up in a cave for a good 2 decades after that. Because all we heard from, I think it was like July on was, look at the Braves, look at the Braves, look at the Braves. The Braves are catching ground. They're catching ground. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. It's only a matter of time. And yeah, it turns out that Braves were able to sweep us, which is the worst possible scenario they could ever have. It's like if we could just win one of those games, I think we have the tiebreaker, I believe. And so we can end up tied with them and we win the division, get some much needed time off and go into this NLDS refreshed, rested, and play the kind of baseball that a re-energized form of baseball, because it just looked like coming down the stretch towards the tail end of September that we were just limping to the finish line. I mean, losing 2 of 3 to the Nats Labor Day weekend, swept by the Cubs. I mean, just not playing great baseball against really subpar, below average teams. Marlins, losing 1 to the A's. Like, this is a handful of games that if you win 1 or 2 of them, we're not a wild card. We're a division winner. And so that ultimately, I think, really contributed to us having an early exit from the postseason. It's like 101 wins, and it just doesn't mean anything. That's why the baseball gods in the sport of baseball is cruel. There is no crueler sport on the planet than baseball. You think about it. I can imagine you go undefeated in the regular season in the NFL, 17-0, you get bounced in the divisional playoff. Yeah, that stinks. Okay, that hurts. I can only imagine. You are the number 1 seed in the NBA. You have you put up like Chicago Bulls 96 numbers, or 70 wins, 60 plus wins, and you get bounced in the second or first round. Yeah, it hurts. NHL, name any other sport, and you have the 3rd or 4th best record in the freaking sport, and you can't get a bye, and you get bounced 2 of 3 in the wild card. At least they expanded the wild card to best of 3. Can you imagine if it was a 1-game playoff and we lost that game? I would jump off the roof. It's like, at least we got 2 more games to try and like make it right, and at least we can try and make it happen. And this is the first season where there is no 1-game playoff tiebreaker. It's like they just went by head to head, which makes sense, I think. And the Braves own that 9-8, I think, or something like that. So they win a division even though they finished the same record with us. We go into this series against the Padres, and our top aces, our top 3 pitchers, we were able to line up against the Braves, didn't pitch that great against them. And I know that final scores don't look like blowouts, but they kind of felt like blowouts. That's about as deflating as you can get. And then Mad Max's old ass gets on the bump and decides to give it the most home runs given up in Mets postseason history, 4. And there's all these analytics and stats about if you lose game 1 of the series, most likely you're going to lose the series. So it's got that going on in my head. Didn't look great. And I had concerns about coming in, if you listen to previous episodes, I had my concerns about the Padres and Cardinals, just like a lot of other teams did. I didn't want to face either one of those teams, because those teams, even though they didn't put up tremendous regular seasons, are dangerous. Like specifically the Cardinals are dangerous in the postseason, and then they get swept by the Phillies, who were like not a lock to make the postseason. We're battling for that final wildcard spot with the Brewers. It's almost like if they lose a game here or there, like they're not even in the postseason. They go in and they sweep the freaking Cardinals at St. Louis, and then they just took the game 1 of the NLDS against the Braves in Atlanta. Cool, man. Cool. Like, that's why I don't want to play 162 games in the regular season anymore. That's just too much. Cut it in half. Like, why can't it just be the same length as the NBA or the NHL? Because it's twice the length, but it's 8 million times more painful when you get eliminated in the first round. It's heart-wrenching, dude. My soul has left my body. Have fun, soul, wherever you are. You Darvish pitched well, but we had guys on base. We just couldn't move them along. Couldn't get him in, and as much as you want to believe what these guys are saying in the post-game, Lindor, Alonso, oh yeah, we're excited for tomorrow. And then coming out and they can act chill, maybe look chill in post-game. On the field, they look like they're pressing hard, swinging at balls out of the strike zone, not working the count. What happened to that brand of baseball? That's what got us so many wins in the regular season, was working the pitch count. And they did that in game 2. I forget who was starting for, was it Sanchez? Someone like that for the Padres in game 2. It was like they worked the count. That one inning took an hour almost, 40 plus minutes, 43, 45 minutes. Usually you get like 3 innings in that time span. So, you didn't see that in game 1 or game 3. They were just pressing and pressing and pressing. And game 3 was, that's got to be the most disheartening elimination game I've ever seen or ever been a part of. As soon as San Diego takes that 2-run lead early, first inning, I want to say, I was like, game over. And I think a lot of people were saying that. Game over, dude. If we score first, we win. If we're leading in the 8th inning, we win. If we do not score first and we're not leading in the 8th, you can probably put it in the books, not in our favor. You can dial up an L. But deGrom's performance in game 2, very similar to what he put up in an elimination game against the Dodgers in 2015. So, that was somewhat, having that similar performance made you think, okay, well, now we're on the right track. Now we got a good performance from deGrom. Maybe Bassitt's taking notes in the dugout, and instead, no, Bassitt comes out. You can talk the talk, dude. You gotta walk the walk. You didn't pitch well against Atlanta. You didn't pitch well against San Diego. Same with Matt, and that was the big concern for me coming into the season was our number 1 and number 2 are some aging pitchers, like dominant pitchers in their heyday, in their prime, and even through the first however many months of the season. But this was the worry about Scherzer, was like, when it comes to September, October, is he going to be just at the same level he was in April, May, June, July? And he wasn't, not even close. And it was tough watching a lot because the relievers that came in game 1, I think it was May, Lugo, pitched well, I thought, for the most part. And in game 2, they decided to bring in Diaz in the 7th and then put him out for the 8th, which is just like a wild move, especially after he's been sitting there on ice for 43 minutes while we put up that epic inning. But then you watch Ottavino load up the bases because he just is not being aggressive. Just throw strikes, dude. You're up 7-2, throw strikes. Enough of this slider bullshit that's missing the strike zone. Like, just throw strikes. 7-2, you got to come in and just attack the strike zone. And instead, and it happened with a couple of the other relievers in game 3 as well, where it's just like we keep going around the plate and not really catching the corners and getting too cute with pitches. Just attack, dude. Attack. This Grisham, dude, one of the weirdest stat lines I've ever seen on a player ever. How the fuck do you bat 184 for an entire season, but you have 17 home runs and 54 RBIs and your OPS plus is 83? That literally means that every hit that you get is scoring a run, which is pretty efficient. It's just like, okay, so you almost never get on base, but when you do get a hit, it scores runs. It's wild. And he murdered us. A fucking 8-hitter murdered us. Say what you will about Daniel Murphy's run in 2015, completely unexpected. At the same time, I don't think he was an 8-hitter who had a horrific regular season. Murphy had a decent regular season. Just preposterous. It's just unbelievable. But you, as a Mets fan, you had to prepare yourself for this with the Padres series. After seeing how he came out like so flat against the Braves, it was like, it would be one thing if we go out against the Braves and we fight hard and we lose in the last inning by a run or something like that. It's like, all right, we put up a good fight. We did not really put up a great fight again in that Braves series. And other than a couple innings in game 2, we really didn't put up much of a fight against the Padres. So, I personally, I tweeted this out and no one liked it. And I get it, because it's people are still very fragile, and I decided to pour salt and I apologize. But I don't know how you can go into the 2023 season with Scherzer and deGrom as your 1 and 2. Maybe that's a hot take. I don't know. And sure, they're going to give you great months of pitching for the majority of the season. But when it comes down the wire, remember we said it's not how you start, it's how you finish. When you can't finish, that's not great. So I'm gonna propose something. Now, Scherzer had a huge contract. I get it. And you don't want to spend that much money on what effectively could be a reliever. So yeah, I'm going to go there. Chris Bassitt's not a 3. deGrom's not a 2 or 1. Scherzer's not a 1 or 2. So now you're looking at, I think Bassett's your 5. I think deGrom and Scherzer are your 3 and 4. And you might even consider throwing one of those guys in the bullpen, maybe even both of them. And I know that, hey, I get it. You can roll your eyes. You can be like, turn me off. I get it. It is a radical suggestion, but I would rather have workhorses, like the version of deGrom and Scherzer in their late 20s, early 30s that can throw 200 innings in the regular season. And, I'm talking about 2001 Arizona Diamondbacks, Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling. Wow, brain fart. I'm getting old. I'm past my prime. I am Max Scherzer at this point. I need to send me out to pasture. So you need that kind of duo, and they're not. I mean, if we're talking about 5 years ago, they are that duo, but it's not 2022. And I honestly think that you have to look at fatigue and your arm getting tired, and you only have so many innings in those arms. I really do. I don't think they are Cy Young caliber anymore. I think they either can function as a 3 and 4, which in the postseason would then go to the bullpen, or you say, let's have the most electric bullpen in MLB history. I'm talking Scherzer 7, deGrom 8, Diaz 9. You can't beat that. And they could go back to back to back to back, 3-4 games in a row. I think you could do that. Yeah, it's crazy. Absolutely insane. I'm a maniac for even suggesting. But I think if you could get workhorses that can give you 6 innings of quality ball from April 1st to September 30th, and then can give you kind of that same level of 5-6 innings of respectable outings, and I'm not even asking for a Musgrove or a Darvish, I don't think. I'm asking for maybe a step below that. Just guys that can give you innings. Like a Bartolo Colon. That, he was not really wowing us when he was with the Mets, but he was just eating innings. Just eating them up, dude. And wasn't collapsing when it mattered most. That's why Bassitt, Scherzer was definitely, I think of the 3, was the most debilitating and frustrating, because it's like, dude, you're going to put up that kind of performance, and then in the post game say, if you get another chance, it won't go down like that. This was your second chance, you fuck face. You had the chance against the Braves, you blew it. We needed you then, you didn't come through. This was your second chance against the Padres to totally redeem yourself, and you blew it even worse. And then you wanted a third chance. So and I'm sorry I called him an F face. That was not that. I apologize, but come on, you can't say that after that performance. You can't say, if I get another chance. Well, you're not gonna get another chance. And I don't want to give you another chance next year. That's how much that performance, last two performances affected me. Where I'm now willing to say that you're not a 1 or a 2. At best, you're a 3, maybe a 4. And we might even think about throwing you in the bullpen and have the most shut down bullpen in Major League history. And like deGrom, is deGrom going to be a guy that you can throw out there for 7 innings, an outing, double-digit strikeouts, maybe in the first couple months, but he's not going to give you that for a full season, and it's not going to be like that in the postseason anymore. You saw it in the final 3 or 4 starts that he had. This guy will give you 5 good innings to great innings, and then will somewhat implode in the 6th. And you're getting to the point where, that game 2, it's like he came out firing the ball 100 miles per hour average on his fastball for the first 2-3 innings, and then legitimately was not throwing any fastballs for 4, 5, and 6 innings. It was all sliders and changeups, and that changeup was not doing anyone any favors. It was just the slider that was on point. So the fastball was his third pitch. So it's like, if that's the logic and if that's how it's going to play out, well, then why start him? Why not bring him in either as middle relief, or he can be a optional closer. He's closer 1B, or he's your setup guy. And it's not going to be an issue, because you're not going 3 innings of throwing 100 miles per hour. You're going maybe back to back days of throwing 100 miles per hour. Just a thought. Hey, put down the cross, put down the nails, put down the hammer. All right. I don't need to be crucified just yet. Just stew in it for a little bit. Just let him marinate just for a little bit, because I don't think you can go back into 2023 thinking that deGrom and Scherzer are going to bounce. They're now a year older, and this was an anomaly, and it wasn't a trend to raise any flags over. I'm like, I think they're on the downward trajectory. So in order to maximize their contracts, but even their bodies at that age, you got to start thinking outside the bun. All right. But Bassitt doesn't feel like a 3 anymore. The kind of bullshit that he pulled during the season, and I'm sorry to say BS, because it's all fun and games when you're winning. Okay. And you're like messing with the opposing batters with like, oh, the pitch comm, like I can't hear the pitch comm, And like, maybe that's your way of playing mind games and getting into the head of the hitters and pissing them off. And then they get frustrated and they're swinging at balls they shouldn't. Great. San Diego comes out with the fathers come out with just an incredible response to that, which is, I'm just going to call timeout before every pitch, and then like get him out of his rhythm, and like and he's having problems with the pitch comm, and then compounded by the fact that he's about to get into his windup after he finally gets the pitch that he wants, and then them calling timeout. You can't say it didn't affect him, and you can't say it didn't affect you, dude. It did, but it's like all the quotes that coming out of Chris Bassitt, like this is, all this tough guy talk, and then to come out in a like elimination game where you have to be at peak performance, top form from the first pitch, and you don't, and you're hanging curveballs, and it's just piss poor against the bottom of the lineup, 7-8-9, which the 7-8-9s were doing more damage than the meat, which is insane. So I mean, I think before Game 3, I was said if and I told this to my cousin because he's a Padres fan now that he's been out in San Diego for so long. I was like, listen, if the Mets don't beat the Padres before the series even started, if the Mets don't beat the Padres, I'm pulling for the Padres to win it all. And then the Game 3 shenanigans go on, and even the Game 1 stuff, the antics of like like to the camera, shushing into the camera, and then even Game 3 where it's like Buck calls out Musgrove and wants to check him for foreign sticky substances because, dude, not sure if you own a mirror, Joe, Mr. Musgrove, your ears are shiny, dude, super shiny for a cold, dry October night. This ain't like August in Atlanta, my man. This is the Flushing, Queens, October. It's like 50 degrees out. Why are your ears so shiny? Okay. And guaranteed Buck does not do that if the Padres are not pulling the tomfoolery that they're doing in the batter's box, calling timeout every other pitch. But then Andrew McCutchen chimes in on Twitter, and even Jerry Blevins saying like, yeah, it's a little weird that his spin rate is way the hell up, triple digits or more percentage points. And McCutchen saying that Frank's Red Hot is a thing, that pitchers are putting Frank's Red Hot on their ears because it gives them a little added oomph. I'm like, part of me wishes if I could time travel, I'd go back to like high school or college and just cheat like crazy, just PEDs and foreign substances out the wazoo until I got that major league contract, and I'd be like, back to fat old lazy Neal. Doesn't use anything. Oh, natural Neal. Here's your 7 ERA, bro. So that was interesting. But like Joe Musgrove talking shit, and then seeing Manny Machado smiling. I'm kind of, I know you're not supposed to wish ill upon men or injury or something like that, but him getting hurt in that last at bat was like, that's sweet karma, dude. You were laughing and loving it every second of how you were beating up on the Metros, and then for you to tweak your back or whatever the hell it was, it's like, you had that coming, bro. Had it coming. So I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm still rooting for the Padres moving forward. I cannot watch the Dodgers go to the World Series again. Really the postseason when the Mets aren't in it from the National League perspective is conflicting as hell. I just don't know who to root for because I hate all those teams. It's like, I'm glad the Cardinals got swept, but they got swept by the Phillies, and now the Phillies are up on the Braves. It's like, I want the Phillies to beat the Braves, but then it's what? I hope it goes Phillies Padres, and the Padres take care of business against the Philly. That's how I hope things turn out, just for my health. Because to see the Braves win it again, see the Phillies win it, see the Dodgers win it, so it's like I kind of have to roll with San Diego. My hope is that they win the NL, and then they just get smoked by whoever comes out of the AL, Yankees included, dude. I just don't care if the Yankees win the World Series. I honestly don't care. Although I know, like, you do see some D-bag Yankees fans that do pop up on the timeline, and they're like, oh, look at the Mets. Oh, the Mets. And so that is bothersome, but I think I've pretty much tuned it out at this point. It's like, you're in the American League, go do your American League things. I like, who owns this town? It's like, I don't give a shit about that. Like, I just don't want, I don't know what it is, but I just don't want the Phillies or Braves to win again. I just don't. And I can't bear to think about the freaking Dodgers winning it again. So Padres, congratulations. You a-holes for sure. Like, I hate you in the way that you tortured us and then rubbed our faces in our dung in that 3-game set, but just go out there and take care of business. And then if you win it all, it's like, cool. The Mets would have done better if the Padres didn't make the postseason. Like, if we didn't face the Padres, I don't know. That's just a spin zone central, spin zone extraordinaire over here. So, I mean, early knee-jerk, premature preview of the 23 season. Like, I think you need, like, you can't roll with Carrasco, and I hate to say it, but I don't even know if you can roll with Walker. It's just, you need to take a good hard look at your bullpen and your starting rotation, and the offense. I mean, it was like all three facets of the game came up fairly short. You just can't. You need a reliable, dependable 1 and 2 and 3. I mean, that's like huge, because this is what happens. You get into a short series like this and you're screwed. So say it does go 7 games, maybe we get to game 7, maybe, because we have more depth, but you just can't have that happen. So I really don't feel comfortable going into 2023 with like deGrom and Scherzer and Bassitt as your 1, 2, 3. I really don't. You really got to look at some guys, shop around. And as far as the offense goes, Lindor, Alonso, McNeil, Nimmo are your core 4. Would have been nice to have who knows what happens if Marte is healthy? That's the other X factor in this whole thing is like, if you don't lose Marte towards the tail end of the season with the broken hand, and he doesn't have to come back and be like pretty much almost half the player he was, even though he was half the player he was when healthy in the postseason, you could still see he made a difference, stealing bases and getting on base and whatnot, and making plays and right. But I don't understand keeping Darren Ruff on the postseason roster. I don't know what he did for you at all that made you think that he was going to play well in the postseason. I'd rather see Naquin, in the mix, but he's a lefty. And so, on paper, analytics wise, Ruff is the better decision because he's done so well against the Padres in general, but against the lefties. But I didn't really see anything that made me think that he was going to be that good. And, some interesting decisions. And there's going to be a lot of decisions that need to be made going into 2023. So I'm going to quickly look at the contracts that we're looking at. Let's see here. Yeah, so we got a lot of dudes. So Lugo's a free agent. I think barring anything crazy, I think you try to bring him back. Although, he has not been the same kind of pitcher that he was in 2019 and even 2020 to a certain extent. I would love to keep Trevor Williams. I think I was kind of surprised to not see him on the postseason roster because I think that, or the wildcard series roster, because I think that he gives you he's kind of like our lifesaver at this point. He's come in really tough situations in long relief and given us a chance to win. Ottavino's tough. He's 36. He didn't end the season on a great note in the postseason, even though, he was like pretty much our best setup man for a long, long stretch of the season. So I don't know that you want to bring him back. Naquin, I think they're probably going to move on from him. Nimmo has to be resigned. I think that's important throughout it all. And Nimmo went through his slumps. I'll give you that, but they weren't extended slumps. And if everyone else was in a slump, it felt like Nimmo was the one guy that was still, even in game 3, like putting together, base knocks, getting on base, at least trying to light the spark and ignite the fuse for this offense that just tends to go to sleep at the worst possible spots. Diaz is a free agent, have to resign. May is a free agent. He's 32 and he looked pretty damn good. Like, I know he wasn't great when he came back from the injury and then he got COVID, and he even tweeted out, how tough this season was for him. It's tough to move on from him because I think that, especially from what I saw in that, was it game 1 and game 3, maybe he looked pretty damn good. So I don't know. I would lean towards re-signing him. Drew Smith, only 28. He's going to be in arbitration. So those are the main free agents that you're looking at. If they let Lugo walk, I don't think I'm going to be that pissed off. I really don't. I think there have been too many times where it's like we needed the Lugo of old to come in and really, be the bridge, so to speak. And I think he didn't have a ton of holds in those opportunities. So hell, if you let Lugo, Ottavino, Naquin walk, I think I'm okay. The must signs for me are Nimmo and Diaz, and I'd throw a must sign on friggin' Trevor Williams, dude. I would. He's just a great band-aid, great stopgap. He stops the bleeding. Drew Smith is arbitration, Guillermo arbitration, Nito, Lucchesi, Rodriguez, McNeil, Alonso, and Smith. So I think you'll probably bring back those dudes, and I assume that McNeil and Alonso will get some pretty significant pay bumps. Even Guillermo will probably get a pretty significant pay bump. Vogie, I don't know how to read this, but I think there's a team option on Vogelback for $1.5 million. Honestly, I think you pick it up. And I know people were really down on him because he kind of came back down to earth like right after the trade. I think you couldn't have asked for anything more out of Vogelback. I just think he's a good clubhouse guy. And true, he didn't really come up clutch in most situations in the postseason or in that series against the Braves. But I still think his relationship with Lindor and Alonso are just good for the clubhouse. And I think, and it's not that expensive, $1.5 million. And he can be a lefty DH against righties. And who knows how it turns out when he's got a whole season with the team. So I would pick that up. Darren Ruff, we have to pay him $3 million next year. Jesus friggin' Christ. That's got to be an all-time bad trade. And then you have a $6 million player option for Taijuan Walker. Hard to see which way Walker's going to go with that. It really is hard to see because I just don't know. I think he likes playing with the team. I don't know how he felt about being initially left off the wild card series roster, only to be put back on when Rodriguez went down with the injury or couldn't play. So I don't know if he takes that. $6 million is not. Maybe he thinks he can get more. I don't know. He might think he can get more. So I wouldn't be surprised if he declines that. But it'll be a good judge of character. It's like, hey man, do you want to be part of a roster that can win a ton of games and has that potential to get to the World Series if we can just make some adjustments here or there. So I mean, I would like to have him back, even after saying that he's probably a 5 in our rotation if we want to be realistic. I think he gives you some decent innings here or there. Maybe he's another guy that you move to the bullpen. I don't know. We got Escobar for another season, which I don't hate. I think if he can be a little more consistent throughout the season and not be such a streaky guy, I think we're pretty solid there at third base. Mark Canha, $11.5 million. I was kind of disappointed in Canha in the postseason. I think there were a ton of spots where it's like you had the opportunity to drive in runs or get on base and you didn't, especially against Atlanta, especially against San Diego. I mean, I know he had that one streak where he was just untouchable, winning games against Philly and then in Oakland, and it gave you a lot of hope and it made you think, okay, this is the right move. Then, again, in clutch situations when we needed wins, it felt like he didn't come up big. Even that like long at bat he had, I think in game 1 against Darvish, where it's like the count went into double digit pitches. The type of swings he was putting on the ball and the contact it was making didn't really inspire confidence. It was like, I don't see this ending in a hit. I see this ending in an out. It's like, I'm glad that we got the pitch count up. I'm glad, but I don't think a lot of his swings really, a lot of check swings, a lot of timid swings, didn't seem like he had a lot of confidence in the box. James McCann, I mean, we got to pay this motherfucker for 2 more years. Oh my God, $12.15 million. And there are people talking about how they might just go the Robinson Cano route and just be like, well, we can't get anything for him. We're going to DFA him. Brutal to eat that kind of contract. But I mean, he just was not giving you anything at all. I know there was some chatter about, his last regular season at bat or game where it's like his bat came alive and it's like, if this is the McCann we get for the postseason, fantastic, but he didn't. Carrasco is a $14 million team option. Hard decline. I think it's great. His story is great, coming back from cancer. But no, I just can't. We have better options out there. So I think we decline that option. There's a $19 million mutual option for Chris Bassitt. He's 33. He talked a big game, but when it mattered most, again, it's Braves Padres, he came up short. I don't even know what a mutual option is. I guess they get in a room and they say, hey, here's what we're thinking. What are you thinking? But I would lean towards no from the team. And maybe he says yes because he's like, I need to make up for this. And maybe that convinces the team to kind of come around on it. But if they do pick up this option, he's not your 3, he's not your 2, he's not your 1. So I would take a good hard look at that. And my initial thought is pass. And I know that's recency bias, and maybe a whole offseason will change my mind, but recency bias says, no, thank you. You just can't put up that kind of performance back to back when we need you the most, especially after all that talk. About how New York is a tough market, and you kind of almost think that the market did get to him, and so he was talking tough because he was insecure about what was going on. Maybe, I don't know. We got Marte for 3 more seasons, which I love now, but you kind of have to wonder, given his injury history and his body, like he's in peak physical condition. He's like, you look at the dude and he's just like, looks like would never get hurt, and then he missed a fair chunk of games this year. So how do you feel about paying almost $21 million a year for the next 3 seasons for a guy that's going to give you maybe 120 games a year? It's like, it's tough because you didn't get a good barometer or measuring stick with this postseason. Dude was hurt. He had a broken hand, was playing like a half, 50% basically. Can't really grip a ball, can't really grip the bat. You can see like he's gutting it out. And I admire the fuck out of that. But at the same time, like if that's going to be an every year annual thing, it's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow. We have deGrom for next year. There's a team option for 24. I thought there was a player option for 23. And maybe he can opt out. Already talking in that last start, game 2 against the Padres, he's talking about this might be the thought crossed my mind. This might be the last time that I pitch for the Mets. Like, dude, what? Why is that thought crossing your mind? Going into a pivotal elimination game. What? So that makes me think he is going to opt out. And you know what? That hurts because I really want to see him get a ring, just like I wanted to see David Wright get a ring. But at the same time, if that's your thought process and that's your mentality, maybe we're better off. I know it's fucking insane to say, and I hate myself for saying it, but maybe we are just better off. If we were talking about his opt out before this season, it just feels like it's coming to a head, and it feels like, all right, I don't know. And if you're Steve Cohen and you're a smart dude, and and like he said, you're not going to spend like a drunken sailor. You made your big time investment, and that big time investment was Francisco Lindor. You took a gamble on Max Scherzer, and you paid him a ridiculous annual salary because you thought that he was going to be that 1-2 punch was going to be it. And I gotta say, after this season, it looks like the gamble's not going to pay off. So unless you have like some serious discussions with Max and Jake and be like, listen, we know where your head's at. We know what you've been able to do in your career. We respect all that. The talk is over though. You have to kind of now perform. And so I wouldn't be like, you can't go into the season with them as 1-2. I can't say it enough. And then you have Lindor at $34.1 million for the next 10 goddamn years. So, I mean, and Lindor put up career numbers this year. Huge bounce back year from over 2021. And you could see there are games where he can take it over. He can take over the game. Do I think that, is he worth the contract? He's getting close. I mean, he's getting close offensively and even defensively. I think he's getting close to earning that contract. But you still have a healthy swath of Mets fans that are like, he's not worth it. And you can see why. Because while you have, it's just like, you can't do what you did in game 3. You can't do what you did in game 1. Same goes for Alonso. And then Scherzer, $43.3 million. So that's a tough pill to swallow for Steve Cohen, because you could very easily go into next season with a different 1 and 2 and 3 in your starting rotation, but your highest earners are your 3rd and 4th starters, or possibly you're the highest of the highest paid middle relief setup guys, alternate closers in the universe. So, I would like to see them invest. So people talk about investing, and this is this is off the wall. I get it. And I know what I'm talking about. I'm just some fat ass in Jersey. I get it. But wouldn't put it past Steve Cohen to be like, you know what? I know we got a lot of money tied up in Scherzer and deGrom to give us 150 innings in the season and to be almost locked down. You can almost guarantee a W every time they go out in the regular season. Thinking about investing more on the offensive side of the ball and saying to yourself, okay, we have McNeil, Alonso, and Lindor, and Nimmo. If we can get those 4 guys back, we have Marte. Okay, that's 5. What are you doing with those 4 other positions? So Escobar is a lock. So now you're looking at, you just can't get out of these contracts though. I don't think, I guess that's the argument against Nimmo, is that he is a free agent. Is he really giving you the kind of numbers? I mean, he's a top 10 across the board in every offensive statistical category. So I guess what are you really hoping for? And I guess that's the argument against Vogelbach. So I guess look in retrospect, having gone through the entire roster contracts and the payroll, I guess you do have to like decline Vogelbach and say, or you bring him back on the cheap for 1.5, and then you say we need the best right-handed DH in the game. But as of right now, it's not looking good for Vogelbach to come back. Now that I'm looking at it and considering all the options, because your money, you have, Marte's signed for 2023, McCann is signed, Canna is signed. So we are in on some contracts that are tough to get out of. So, is Guillorme the guy that you have a lot of confidence in heading into 2023? I think it is. Is it really one bat? It's coming down to that one bat. And that's where we're at. I mean, people are saying that the Mets are going to sign Judge. I mean, that would be the one bat. Yeah, that would be it. So I guess I could take a brief look at the MLB free agents, top free agents. Let's take a look at the starting pitchers. Let's fucking go, dude. Trevor Bauer, no. The market value according to Spot Track on deGrom is $41.9 million a year, which I guess you would think is a steal compared to Scherzer at 43. I just don't know. That's a lot of money to tie up in a guy who, will get you a lot of wins in the regular season. But, again, I just don't think, I think he's on the back end of his career, the tail end of his career. I mean, and that's why I was talking to my brother-in-law about this. You have to give props to someone like Nolan Ryan. That dude was pitching till 40-41 and still throwing no hitters. Like unreal. And still had some life on his fastball. That's the other thing that you start to notice about Scherzer is like, this guy's not throwing 94, 95, 96 anymore that consistently. He's really topping out at 92, 93, especially towards the tail end of the season, which means he has to rely more on his other pitches. And you could see like his changeup and his slider didn't have any bite, and the Padres were teeing off on that. So, Verlander, again, almost 40. No thanks. Carlos Rodon is a lefty. Going to be $31 million. That's intriguing. Yeah, they have to give that a lot of thought. To have a nice lefty starter in the mix would be pretty sweet, and he's not that old. Syndergaard can go F himself. Adam Wainwright, no thanks. Clayton Kershaw, 35 years old. No. Nathan Eovaldi is going to be 33. Greinke's going to be 40. Aaron Nola is going to be 30. Sonny Gray is going to be 33. Severino's 29. Paxton's 34. Sean Manaea is going to be 31. The lefty. Chris Bassitt's market value is going to be $21 million. Andrew Heaney, lefty starter. 11 million. So you can see like what we're dealing with here. It's like a lot of like aging arms. Michael Wacha's market value is $12 million. Jesus Christ. So, I don't know that I'm really crazy about a ton of those names on the free agent list for the starting pitcher market. Wilson Contreras, in terms of catchers, if you're looking to supplant McCann, just eat that contract, which it looks like it might be heading that way. You have Wilson Contreras yet again, now at age 30, in the Cubs. Market value of $16 million a year. A lot of guys that are, in their 30s. I don't know that there's a ton of names out there that you're really chomping at the bit for other than Contreras, as far as I can see. So that's tough. Designated hitters, JD Martinez is 35. His market value is 15 mil. Jorge Soler is going to be 31. McCutcheon's 36. Pujols, no thanks. Vogelbach is your youngest option at 30. And it looks like he's going to be your cheapest option. So it's tough, man. I don't think there's a whole lot out there. Aaron Judge, I guess that's the guy, right? Just go in on Aaron Judge, maybe you look at, do you consider signing a Trey Turner or even Dansby Swanson, and then you move McNeil to the outfield, and you got to say and you got to platoon him with Canna, say like McNeil starts in the outfield against righties, Canna starts in the outfield against lefties, and then Escobar and Canna, initially you think pretty solid signings, but it's like kind of hindering your ability to make moves because you're locked in on them and you could be losing out on others. So man, that fucking sucks. So it's tough. Barring any major catastrophes, I think we make the playoffs again next year. But you have to wonder, like, seeing what happened to us towards the end of this season and in the postseason, you do need some like 1 to 2 bats, 1 to 2 bullpen arms, I think. And then you got to look at 1 and 2 starting pitchers. I know that's fucking nuts, but like, what about what happened against the Braves and Padres makes you feel good about running it back with deGrom and Scherzer as 1 and 2? Okay, so maybe not 2 starting pitchers. I feel a lot better if Scherzer's your 2 and deGrom's your 3, or deGrom's your 2 and Scherzer's your 3. I feel better about that, and then have a definitive number 1 workhorse. That's like, this is the guy who's going to get us that game 1 win, that vaulted, necessary, required game 1 win. That's the guy that they need, because Scherzer and deGrom aren't it. I'm sorry. I love them. Love deGrom obviously way more, but and Bassett's like, I think I'm okay with moving on from Bassitt. I really am. And that's probably just me being sour grapes, but I'm sour. I need the new day to come tell me to stop being sour and feel the power. All right. Yeah, I've now reached my innings limit. I've reached my pitch count for the game, for the season, for the series. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you. I really do. And let's go Mets, and let's go Big Blue. Let's continue the good vibes. Let's keep building on what we've got going. Jesus, you had asked me last year at this time, hey, Giants will be 4-1. Mets made the postseason. What are your thoughts on that? And I'd be like, that's pretty good. I would take this, and that's how. And a lot of other fan bases calling us poverty franchises. Yeah, you know what? We're impoverished a little bit, and we're starving, and we're hungry, we're thirsty, and we're trying to get off the food stamps. But goddamn, it tastes good right now. It's delicious. But now we've had a taste, and now we want more. So let's get more. All right. Till next week. Adios, muchachos. Yeah.